Now this is the applied information box that you're opening up, and what do you actually get in this box?
So obviously you'll have your cabinet unit, your antennas and antenna leads, your power cable, and then all the harnesses to terminate inside the cabinet will be in this box. So everything you need is all in one box.
So what do you start with when you're opening up? Are you grabbing all of these cables so that you can go and terminate them? Is that what you first do?
That's right. What we like to do first is mount the box inside the cabinet, and then we'll unbundle our cables and begin routing the cables in the cabinet.
Okay, so first you mount the box, then you basically start routing and terminating the cables.
That's right.
And what kind of tools do you need for this process?
Basically, you just need basic hand tools. We've got a set of crimpers, flathead, Phillips head, of course a multimeter, some fork terminals, splices, just your standard equipment, and some tie wraps and a set of strippers.
So when you're looking at a traffic cabinet, where do you think about placing the preemption units?
Yeah, it's important to have it in a good location to where your wires can be ran nice and neat. Also have it spaced for good ventilation between the other equipment that's existing.
So in this cabinet, where would you think about putting it?
We were thinking right here under this switch, between the switch and the drawer.
And what would that reason be?
Well, for one, we don't like to get it up above the controller for heat flow. We want to get good ventilation, as well as just good location to run your wires.
Yep, because the majority of the wires are actually going to go down. So the closer we can get to here just means we can get the wires a little bit neater as far as running them down to the lower half of the cabinet.
All right, David, there's one other piece of the puzzle that we're talking about, which is one of these special panels that Temple is made up. Do you want to explain that to us?
Yeah, so this panel is just an accessory that we use. We mount this in the cabinet. You'll notice the harnesses are wired to this panel, and then we have the wires where we'll just terminate these in the cabinet. You'll notice you just go ahead and start out with a nice clean look, and it really helps giving it a nice clean install finish.
And this is one of the innovations that you guys did to make everything a lot neater looking in the cabinet. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, and anything to help with neatness, inside these cabinets really pays off, down the road. So this is our Temple, we just call it our AI panel, and we're mounting this in the back of the cabinet. That way we can begin routing our harnesses to their termination points.
And what we've done is you can see that they found the spot within the back of the cabinet that this unit fits in very nicely. And the next step is basically routing all of the cables down. All right, so what we're going to be doing now is looking at some of the paperwork. When you're wiring up the cabinet, there's two different options that we're looking at this cabinet. The first one is wiring directly from the AI unit, and the second one is using the Temple back panel. There are two sets of documentation that we have here. One is the applied information documentation for the cabinet wiring description, and the other is the Temple base plates that provide you with all the outputs. And how do you know which output on the cabinet to wire the devices to?
Well, if you look at this particular schematic here, we're going to go at number 1, and number 1 is going to be a ground out, and then like number 2 is going to be a 10-volt VDC out. So we're going to look at the panel, we're going to see that number 1 is going to be ground, and then number 2 is going to be your 10 volts DC that you supply from your AI unit. So that's going to hook directly up to our door switches, front and rear door switches, and it should be the same thing exactly here. Here's your 10 volts VDC here. So this would be your yellow wire that's already landed on 2. So we're just going to take our door switches and just attach them straight to our panel instead of butt splicing them into your harness.
Okay, so on this cabinet here, where would your door switch be routed to? How would you know that?
So the door switch, we're going to add a auxiliary door switch in. We can't use the existing cabinet door switch because these are 120 volt AC. So we'll add an additional auxiliary switch, and we'll tie that in to the AI unit with its own 10 volt and alarm.
Okay, so you're going to wire directly from this panel to the door switch.
That's correct. That's correct. We'll tie both door switches together and then wire those into the panel for the input.
We're going to go ahead and we're going to add the auxiliary door switch. So basically I've just taken the nut off and I'm just going to connect this back. Hopefully.
And now what's special about this door switch versus the other door switch?
This door switch here is actually taking the 10 volts that you guys provide, and we're actually gonna break the 10 volts with this particular door switch, and then it'll send an alarm back through the panel, through the wiring harness into the AI box to let somebody know that the cabinet door is open, whether it be the front or the back door.
Okay, and is this something that Temple provides? Is it a Temple door switch that they make up in-house?
This is a Temple door switch and harness that we make up in-house, along with the door switch bracket as well. So yes, sir.
All right, we're coming to the rear of the cabinet where we're installing the second door switch, and you'll see it's exactly the same process. The door switch goes on top of, goes next to the other switch, and now you've got 2 door switches. This still needs to be tightened up, and once tightened up, it'll come out perfectly. So you can see that these are the door switches right next to each other. One is the AC door switch, and one is the AI low voltage door switch for providing the alarms. Alright, so we're wiring up the door switches, and we're putting these 2 door switches together, and we're terminating them together so that both door switches will come into the AI unit or into the back panel at the same time. So whether a front door is open or a rear door is open, we'll get a signal describing that.
Then we just looked at the print that we provided and that AI provided, and we're just attaching. This is going to be one side of both switches, and it's going to go actually to the input. It's going to input into the AI unit to tell you that the alarm that the door is open. Then we're going to take the other side to number 2 on the TV to actually apply the 10 volts. So we're actually just making or breaking the 10 volts.
So we need to terminate a few wires down here on our output file. 3 wires, or 3 terminations. We need to land 1 on the DC ground for a ground reference on the cabinet, and then 2 other wires on the stop time and flash sense. That way we'll know when the cabinet goes into those 2 conditions, we'll get an alarm for that.
Alright, so all you're doing is you're crimping some lugs onto the end of these cables so that it just makes your wiring onto the actual cabinet a little bit easier and neater.
That's right, yep. Use a fork terminal, that way we can land it here in this terminal block.
Alright, so what we're doing now is we're wiring in the cabinet fan monitoring circuit. And what are you doing here, David?
So this is we referenced the print and we saw where we need to go to terminal 1 on the thermostat. So this is our reference wire here. So I've loosened up that terminal and we're going to just piggyback on top of it. This is the wire that actually powers the fan coming off the thermostat, and we're going to go right on top of that with our monitoring wire.
So what are we wiring in right now?
Okay, we're wiring in the green incense, and that's gonna look for the green output out into the street. So we'll know which phase is green and for how long and for what particular phase. So what we're trying to do now is we're trying to find the neatest route that we can down to the output file so we can actually connect this harness. One end of the harness goes into the green incense plug on the back of the AI unit, and the other end is nicely labeled with green sense input, that's phase 5, or input 5, input 3, input 11, and then of course you're also going to have your neutrals. So those are going to land on your neutral bus, and then your outputs for your greens going out to the street.
So this is the panel that is everything going out towards the street?
Yes, sir.
And how do you know what phase is what phase on here?
You can look on the very back, and you've got red, yellow, green for phase 1. This is running a flashing yellow arrow, so we're only using the green for 1. This is phase 2, red, yellow, green, phase 5, and phase 6. So we'll take our phase 2 green and we'll attach it right here beside phase 2 green. But remember, if that's green, it's got 120 volts on it, so use caution.
Okay, and when you're routing the cables over here, I noticed you saying that you've got to have a bit of slack here. Why do you need a bit of slack?
I'm going to leave a little bit of slack here in case we've got to pull the unit out for any reason, just so we got a little more working room. If we need to pull it out and do any upgrades to it, we can. Or if we need to pull the top of the box off for some reason, we can actually pull it out a little bit without having to cut too many tie wraps loose. So we'll add a little slack to make it a little easier down the road. Okay, so now before we actually land the green incense for the actual phase, for the phase greens, now we're just going to go ahead and connect our green incense neutral. So we're going to have a neutral for every green output, green incense that we've got here on our board. So you've got a green incense 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now we're just gonna attach.
And this is the neutral bus on the cabinet.
This is the neutral bus right here on the cabinet, and we're just gonna attach them like so.
All right. So what we're doing now is we're wiring in the live greens over here. So we're wiring in green phase 1.
Yes.
And then we're going to continue to do the next green, the next green, and the next green. At the moment we are on number 1, then we're going to do 2, 5, and 6.
The unit also calls for raw, AC neutral, and AC plus. So AC plus and AC minus. So what we've done here is we've came down and we've attached a black for AC plus, and then we've actually attached a white. It's got the white coming in for the AC neutral here. So both, we've gone up into our harness and then came back and attached to actually number 12 here, and then it looks like it's number 13 and 15 here for our AC, to jump our AC neutral. So the neutral bus bar, and then just your main raw power coming in for your AC plus down there at the bottom.
So now we're at the point of the install where we want to test the cell signal strength, and we're going to position the antenna, different parts of the cabinet, do some signal readings before we actually install it on the cabinet.
Okay, and this antenna, I see there's 2 cables coming out the bottom. What are those?
So one cable is the cable for your GPS, and the other cable is for your actual cellular antenna. And it's 2-in-1 in this one hook. Okay, so now we're about to power the unit up by plugging it into one of our equipment receptacles in the cabinet. So just take our adapter here, plug it in, and then we'll come around to the front. And for shipping purposes, we put this piece of tape here so the switch won't get bumped on. There is a small battery unit inside the unit that will power it on in case there's a AC power failure. So we'll just take that tape off and turn the unit on.
And what are you going to see now?
Once you turn the unit on, you'll notice some lights begin. This is the first light you can see. That's the heartbeat of the unit. Once the unit gets modem connection with the central server, we should see the central light turn on, and then the unit will start posting to the Glance server.
Okay, and how long does that normally take?
Upon the initial startup, we're looking anywhere between 30 seconds to a minute is what we normally see.
Okay, so, and then there's also two other lights here. Control 1 and Control 2, that's if you want to control the outlet sockets at the back of the unit.
That's correct. Yeah, that's the nice thing about these is we've got 4 power outlets in the back.
And now we see the central light starting to flicker.
There we go. So now we're communicating with the Glance server.
All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to our iPad and log in and see exactly what's happening to see what the signal cell strength is.
That's right.
All right, we're inside of the vehicle now, and this is one of the critical steps, is to make sure that everything is connected correctly, but very importantly, what the signal cell strength is.
That's right.
Can you tell us what you're doing, David?
Okay, so first we're just going to open our iPad up. We're going to browse to the Glance website, server1.appinfoinc.com, and we're going to get logged in, and that's going to allow us to view information about our unit. See, we've got quite a few tests.
It's under Gwinnett. It was right near the top.
Oh, my bad.
Right, so we're selecting the actual unit that we have, and we're going to go first of all and look at the cell signal strength.
Correct. So we're going to go to our 3rd level of information.
And we're going to go look at the data log device IO and scroll across and look at the cell signal strength.
So here we are, -73, which is excellent.
So now we know that with that signal cell strength, we can go and install the antenna on the cabinet, correct?
That's correct. Yep. Now we'll mount it and get it in place. So now we're about to install the antenna on the cabinet. We've found a location that's best as far as our signal strength reading. So about to drill a 1/2-inch hole into the cabinet, route the antenna wires through the hole and back to the unit.
And what are you using to do this?
Well, you can use any type of bit, but we like to use the step bit. It just seems to be a little easier starting, and then you can size your hole, as needed per the stud.
And then what do? You just take the ends of the cables and pull them through?
That's right. Yeah, once your hole's drilled, we'll take the cables, go through the hole, and then we'll route them back to the box where they'll terminate on the back of the box. All right, so now we're about to mount the antenna. The antenna has a self-adhesive sticker on the bottom, so we'll just peel that off. Usually this gives it a good seal, but we like to go the extra mile and put a little bit of all-purpose silicone, seal it up. That way we, really won't have to worry about any more leaks. I'll just run a little bead around the mounting hole, and that usually works pretty good for us. Once you've got the antenna on, then you've got a nut and a washer. Nice thing is they have slots, so you don't have to worry about putting those on first. They will slide over the cable.
All right, so now we're installing the 900 megahertz radio, And you can see what the guys have done is they put the 900 megahertz radio on the opposite side of the cellular antenna so that there's no interference. Also, where they place the 900 megahertz radio is at a part of the intersection that has a view to all the different approaches. So there's no obstruction in those approaches, which means the line of sight will be very good at this intersection.
Okay, so one of the last things that we're going to do after we've got everything wired in is we're going to take an Ethernet cable, a little patch cable, a 3-foot patch cable. We're going to try to route it in. We're actually going to connect the AI unit to the Ethernet switch.
And that's going to connect the traffic signal controller to the AI box, and it's going to connect the conflict monitor.
Conflict monitor, you're exactly right. It's going to connect the conflict monitor. It's going to connect the traffic controller, everything to the switch, and then connect it directly to the AI box. So we'll be able to pull communications from the monitor and from the controller.
Alright, so we're just going to take our prints, our temple panel print, along with our applied information wiring description, and we're going to make sure we store this in the cabinet. That way, whoever the next technician that comes along is curious about what we've done, all the documentation's here in the drawer.
And that's the install. So we've got the AI unit that's hooked in, and if we walk around to the back of the cabinet, you'll see here's the temple panel, and all of those cables are going back into the AI unit with the antennas and the Ethernet cable. And they've done a really neat job over here of installing and routing all of these different cables, that it all looks neat, like it's straight out of the factory.